Sweet.
Okay. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So using the Google Doc that we're going to collaborate on, we should go through it maybe? What do you guys propose?
Yes, my suggestion would be to read through the question and each of us give our input.
Okay.
Maybe make notes alongside.
That sounds good.
All right.
So I have the Google Doc sort of uploaded off to the side, and I can make a couple notes while we discuss it.
Okay. Taylor, would you like to read the questions?
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now. Give me a second here.
We can wait.
Okay.
Okay.
So list what you know about Mr. Jones and his class of students. Do we want to do it one by one for all of them, or do we want to go, I say what I know about the first student, one of you says what you know, like that, or just one of us talk about each student, then the next person talk about all the students?
Sorry, Shelby, to interrupt, but go ahead.
Let's go one by one and discuss, like, for the first student, I believe was Ray, right?
Yeah.
So let's mention one thing that you know about him, and we'll build upon it all together.
Okay.
Should we start with the teacher, though?
Oh yeah. Let's start. Yeah. Let's start with the teacher.
Okay.
All right. You want me to go first and just say one thing?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Jones teaches algebra 1 to 6th through 8th graders.
Teaches. Okay. His school is in a small district in Central Valley, California.
Okay.
I have the demography of his school is 46% Hispanic students, 38% Anglo students, 7% African American, 6% Asian students, and 3% others.
Good.
Okay. And then the first student is Ray, and he was in an accident that caused hearing loss and a brain injury.
Okay. Just a second, Taylor. I have some more information about the classroom or the school that he teaches.
Okay.
It mentions that there are 2 middle schools in the area where he teaches, and 85% of the students get reduced lunch.
Oh, that was something that stood out to me too. The 85% reduced lunch.
Right. So that shows that it is socio-economically kind of, low in that area.
Okay.
Also, the API of the school is mentioned. It says 600 points, which I understand is in the mid-level for that socioeconomic group.
Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. Do we want to move on to the students?
We can move on to
Okay.
we can move on to Ray.
Yeah, like I said previously, the first student is Ray, and he was in an accident that caused hearing loss and a brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
So he also has to now wear a hearing aid, which can be, when children see something different about another child, it sometimes causes them to ostracize that child.
Right.
That's right. So what I have written is socially he seems to kind of be a loner. He does not interact with other people or ask for help. Um, Academically, I have written that he tends to study the diagrams and not text.
Okay.
So it seems like he is a visual learner. He doesn't like discussing things, but his behavior seems to be, okay. He is respectful, he's polite, and he's soft spoken.
Okay. And so, do you guys want to go through each student what we know, and then jump over to what we want to know, or do you want to go? Do you want to alternate from what we know to what we want to know?
Our know and then step on to want to know.
Okay. All right.
If that works for everyone.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. And then the next student would be Marta. And one of the things that I have about her is that she does not follow directions.
Does not follow. She was also the one that she was a Mexican national, and she likes to speak Spanish to her neighbor,
Right.
and being disruptive in class, as you said.
The other thing that was notable was that Marla likes to copy from her friend. I forget the name. I think it's Arki. And the teacher was kind of surprised that her homework is tidy and error-free. And it seems like from her behavior or the way she works, the teacher's kind of confused because he does not understand how she's able to produce error-free work without being able to explain it in class or not discussing it in class.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then the next student would be Dylan. And one of the things that I gathered from him is that he gets along with others and he is on the wrestling team. So he's a pretty involved student in school activities.
He was the model student, right?
Yes.
The typical of the 2/3 of class. Okay.
Yeah.
Academically, his grades seem to be okay because it says he has a few A's, B's, and some C's. He listens, he takes notes, he asks questions and answers when he's asked, though sometimes his answers are wrong.
Okay.
All right, and then the next student that was discussed is Bill. And the main thing that I gathered from him was that he is a military brat, and he has been to 5 schools in 4 different countries.
Traveler.
Yeah.
Good. I also noted about Bill that he makes friends easily, and he seems to be outgoing, and that he has goals to also follow along with his family and be a Navy SEAL.
Hey, I'm on a video conference. Keep it down.
The teacher mentions that he likes videos and he's pretty knowledgeable.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Okay.
All right. And the next, is it Gina next?
Gina, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Thought I skipped one. And what I gathered from Gina is that she lives in a single parent home with 2 older sisters.
True.
I also want to mention that her mom is not home at nighttime, so she barely sees her mom, even though she doesn't even see her single parents.
Right.
Also, she seems to. She is I believe this student was I'm looking for it. Hold on. Oh, she is a scholarship student, and Mr. Jones noted that she did not actually look and act like the part of a model student.
Right. So my first impression was by the description that Mr. Jones is kind of judging her based on her clothes.
That's what I thought.
And for a teacher, I kind of, and also he mentions that she has attitude. So it would be interesting to know more about her, because it seems like he considers her a solid student. She doesn't seem to have any other problems. And also one part mentions that she aspires to be like her sister. I think one of them wants to be an esthetician, and she is, I think that is what she is looking at, becoming either that or a massage therapist.
Yeah.
Mr. Jones mentions that, considering that she is a good student, I think it seems like it comes across as he's kind of surprised that that is the path she would want to take.
Okay.
Yep. All right, and the next student would be Roxana, and she is working on her citizenship. And another thing is that her mother did not attend high school.
So the correct pronunciation would be Rukhsana.
Okay.
That's a person name.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah, it is Rukhsana, and I noticed that because that is how usually Arabic names are pronounced. For Mr. Jones to feel, I mean, he said, right, some families, and
yeah.
So it seems like he's not culturally aware.
Yeah.
Right.
He mentions that she's a good student, turns in her homework, though her grades are like C's and D's. But I would understand why. She seems to be neat. She is polite. So I think Taylor, you mentioned, or Shelby, you mentioned that her mom is not educated. So it seems like she obviously doesn't get any support at home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes. Oh no, that's the want to know. No mind.
Okay.
I was going to move on to want to know. It's not time yet.
All right, and then the last student is Steven, and so he has cerebral palsy, although he is a very gifted student.
Okay. So he also has a paraprofessional that helps him with his I want to get it right, his personal needs or his caring needs.
Right. He also has an IEP, that is the Independent Education Plan for special needs kids. The teacher mentions that he's able to grasp the concepts, though teacher does not understand how, because he is not capable of communicating. He uses an aid to help him communicate. He's able to type his homework on emails. The one thing that stood out was that the teacher had not met his special needs teacher or special education teacher, and it says that he's been in school for 8 weeks. So that was something that stood out to me while reading it.
Okay. So now, are we going to move on to the want to know portion?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So starting with Mr. Jones, what I would want to know is, what are his teaching strategies? Does he favor students from different backgrounds? And what is his background?
I would be interested in knowing about his own experiences, like how long has he been teaching? And I would want to know if he collaborates with people, because considering he has, it seems like he has English language learner and a special needs student, as well as it seems like there is one child that might have behavioral issues. So I would want to know if he's, he likes to collaborate and work with other teachers to plan his teaching strategies.
Those were both things that I had noted down, especially the one about collaborating and going and talking to the special ed teacher, because that's a big thing. If he has not talked to them yet, he does not know the requirements.
Right.
Also, if he knows of any other IEPs in his classroom, or has he read any of them?
Right. Sometimes teachers do pass down what they call blues and yellow, blues and pink, like that have, records of previous years from previous teachers. I would want to know if he got any input from, because these students are in 7th and 8th grade. So they are transitioning from elementary to middle school. So I would want to know what their strengths were, what their weaknesses were, and if Mr. Jones is aware of those.
Okay.
Right. Okay, and for Ray, the main thing that I would want to know is, since he says he doesn't communicate and doesn't really speak up much, is did the accident that he was in alter his ability to speak? Like, can he even speak at all? Would definitely be what I would want to know.
So I think he says, in here it says whenever he is heard, the teacher has heard Ray speak, he speaks very softly. So I think he does have the ability to communicate. But I would think, and since they talk about the accident and him having to wear hearing aid, I would want to know if something has changed over the years, because he was able to obviously listen and speak before the accident.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So has this trauma affected in some other ways besides what is visible?
Okay. I also wanted to know, sort of along the lines of the speaking, but going towards, did his brain injury harm his ability to read written language? Or is he an ELL student, the English language learner student? So like, he is a Mexican national, so I can't assume, I don't want to assume, but generally they can speak Spanish, or that is the language in the home. So is it partially a problem with the language barrier, or is it really just the mental damage that happened? That's my question.
Another thing I would be curious about is because it says that he does well in the individual assignments at school, but does not do well in tests. So it would be very interesting to know if he has any accommodation for tests, or he is, he just does what everybody else in the classroom does.
So does he have a 504 that notes down that he needs extra time for a test?
Okay.
All right. And then the next student would be Marta. And the main thing that I would want to know about her is, does she even speak English? Because he says she's always speaking Spanish to other students and she doesn't follow directions. So does she even understand English?
Okay.
Yeah, that would be my question too, because it seems like she's comfortable talking to her neighbor and copying work of her. It is hard to, I would want to know what her abilities are,
Right.
in terms of not just reading, not just math, but reading and writing and other aspects. And she's social, because it seems like she is social, but it doesn't give us much idea that her disruption or her talking is only because she's comfortable talking to that one person, or is it just she does that all the time, or is it the specific incidences of conversations, or so I would like to know more about these interruptions that she causes. What time, when during the day does it happen?
Yeah. So building upon that, I wanted to know if she was part of an ELL program, and because she speaks Spanish so much and she's in an American school, generally they're in an ELL program to help build their English ability.
Right.
But also I wanted to know, is this her first year in American school? Because then he needs to intervene and set a lot of that. Or how long has she been in American schools? Because that might also note whether or not she's just being disruptive and not being respectful. Because if she's been there longer, she has had the experience with learning English,
Right.
and she should be able to respond at least in English to him.
Right. Okay, and then the next student would be Dylan, and as he seems to be a pretty well-to-do guy, does well in school, is part of some athletics. I would just wonder are his parents involved, and is that maybe why he is doing a little bit better than some of the other students?
Good. I didn't think about parent involvement for him.
Yeah. Yeah, Dylan seems to be, I don't know, I mean, because it says 2/3 of the classes like Dylan, it seems like he is probably the norm in the classroom, and socially, academically, he seems to be doing okay.
Yeah.
I am not sure, if there is any other issues, behavioral issues that is not mentioned, because he says that if Mr. Jones has mentioned him, I'm assuming that there might be some challenges with Dylan as well.
Okay.
So I would want to know what other aspects of his development is Mr. Jones concerned about.
Okay.
Also, there's one part where he says he reviews help him. So that means that he is doing well because of extra support from the teacher.
Okay.
I'm not sure about this part though.
Okay. I would also want to know if, I lost my thought. Not something I mentioned because it was something you guys mentioned.
You want us to?
So, I think it had to do with the behavior thing. I'll try and remember and note it down later.
Okay.
Okay.
Next
All right.
student.
And then the next student is Bill, and it seemed like he was just mentioning, I guess, appearance type stuff for Bill. So I'm just curious to know how he does in class himself.
I also wrote that down. He never talked about his performance,
Yeah.
his behaviors.
Right.
Yeah, one thing kind of stood out, the teacher labeling Bill as a military brat.
Yes.
So I would want to know what caused that label. Because as educators, I believe we need to be conscious of our own biases. So it would be I would be curious to know as to did an accident happen, because it seems like he's pretty outgoing, he's tidy, and based on what we learned about the psychological development stage, it seems like he's mature enough to have a goal. So it seems like he is self-confident, he is outdoorsy, he is on the swim team, he's pretty knowledgeable. So I would think he's pretty self-confident. So it would be interesting to see if there are any other academic challenges or any other behavioral issues that Mr. Jones.
Well, in that context, military brat, that's not really a derogatory term, like telling a kid like, oh, you're a brat.
Oh, is it? Okay, I was not aware of that.
A military brat just means that it's the kid who moves around a lot with whichever parents in the military.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good to know.
So,
see, I have had my own bias because I was not aware of the term. Okay. Thank you so much, Taylor.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay. Going on the military side of it, though, is both of his parents at home or is one away overseas? Because if he has a parent in the military, yes, they might both be there at a time, and I know they move around to stay near to the whichever parent or both parents that are in the military. But does he currently have a parent away, or both?
Yeah.
That would be interesting to know.
All right, and the next student would be Gina, and as she said that she doesn't plan on going to college, which is surprising to Mr. Jones because she's a good student. My questions would be, does her mother tell her that she can't afford to go to college and that she won't pay for it? And or why doesn't she plan to go to college if she is a capable student?
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. With Gina, I see that she kind of looks up to her sisters. So I'm wondering if, if given a different, if she's exposed to more people outside of her environment, would it motivate her? So what kind of learner is she? That would be something that I'd be curious about.
Okay.
So if she's like a more hands-on learner, like it sounds like her sister is, or is she more academically based?
Correct.
Okay. Also, for Anna, I wanted to know if anyone else in her family has gone to college, or if it does so be inspired to go to college, will she be the first?
Okay. That's a good one. Yes, I didn't think about that.
Okay, and I know I'm probably going to say this wrong again. Roxana?
Yeah, you got it right.
All right. I would like to know, is her English proficient? And does she receive fair attention from Mr. Jones?
Oh, those are good ones.
Yeah, I would want to know her involvement in the classroom and her social aspect. If she has friends, because it seems like she's a good student, doing her homework, but would help from peers help her improve her performance, considering she doesn't get much help at home. So I would want to know if she is able to get any additional help from school.
Yeah, is she able to have any tutoring from either Mr. Jones or another program offered by the school?
Okay, and then Steven, the last student, what I would want to know about him is how many other mainstream classes is he in? What are his other strengths, and how much help does he get from his aide? I know it says he gets a lot of physical help, but I was wondering how much help he actually gets with the schoolwork.
Yeah, from my understanding of special needs students, it seems like it is not just about the academic aspect for them. It is also socially. I would want to know how is the interaction in his classroom with his peers. Is he equally involved? Does he do cooperative learning? Are students respectful, or are aware of his special needs? Are they, is that environment conducive to him?
Okay. Let me check my notes if I have anything more than that. Because he is part of special education, I was wondering if this is his only pull-out, his only mainstream, or if he has other subjects he's mainstreamed in also.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing myself. Okay, so we moving on to initial thoughts now?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. So my initial thoughts are that I believe Mr. Jones should take his time and better understand each one of his students on a deeper level. His descriptions of many of his students seem to be based on only what he can see from them, rather than them as students and as young people. And he did not give much detail about what style of learning each of his students are most comfortable with, or what types of teaching they struggle with. And I believe if Mr. Jones was to delve a little deeper into the backgrounds of his students, such as their English proficiency, possible learning disabilities, and parent involvement, his students may succeed more, as he can alter his teaching style to meet the varying needs of all of them.
Cool. Okay. So I took a little bit more student by student look, but all of those things are mentioned overall in mine. In particular, though, I wanted to mention that he really should, if any student has an EIP, IEP, thank you. I'm looking at ELL and I'm getting confused. IEP or a 504, he needs to read them. He needs to meet with the special educator and see what the accommodations are needed to be. Because Ray has a hearing aid, I have no doubt he has some sort of accommodation. Because something like that, and if it doesn't, then he needs to make one for him. That's something he should do. That was mainly for Ray, but Mr. Jones needs to definitely vary his teaching style to reach more of his students. In particular, Stephen, he might be bored being gifted. And he might need some expansion upon the material or some extra work so that he can stay engaged and learning. Because I would get bored if that's all I had to do and I couldn't speak to anyone. So also, Mr. Jones needs to create more social interactions and cooperative learning for all the students to be able to practice those skills.
My initial thoughts were, firstly, does Mr. Jones have a data on all his students, like, through assessment, through observations, or is this information that we are reading, because they have been in school just 8 weeks. So my understanding would be that he hasn't had enough time to get to know each of his students. Mm-hmm. So once he's able to get more data and able to analyze that data, he probably would be able to figure out better strategies to incorporate that in the learning environment for his students. Because as it seems like he has a couple of kids who have who either do not speak English or they might have but they're bilingual. Mm-hmm. Like probably 3 of them that are mentioned. So from what we understand about bilingual education, sometimes the students may take a little longer to understand the content. Mm-hmm. And the grades that he has mentioned, are these the grades that, that is through the first couple of weeks of school, or is it the prior information? Those were my initial thoughts.
Okay.
All right.
That all sounds good. I've typed some rough notes on our Google Doc, okay. And we've sort of mentioned our rationale for our initial thoughts just now. Mm-hmm. So let's make sure we look over the initial notes on the Google Doc and make them more presentable.
Sounds good. So
how are we gonna do the paper?
Okay. So the paper, I've sort of scaffolded it, and it's, I don't know. So like small introduction, like a couple sentences, and then maybe the table format. I don't know, or we can turn that into different paragraphs. It did say list it, but then the rationale definitely has to be a solid, no more than 300 words, but rationale for our reasonings.
Okay.
For